For those people here who are bilingual, you were probably not raised in the American schooling system. The fact is that only 20% of students in the United States schooling system study a foreign language at the K through 12 level, and those that do study foreign languages are only required to complete 2 to 3 years, which is most likely forgotten later in life. In the United States, foreign language programs are dwindling and are not well supported because the government finds it a financial detriment to continue funding the programs when the rest of the world is learning English. This mindset hurts the American people by not providing them the tools they need, personally and professionally, to live in the ever-expanding global world. To put this into perspective on a global scale, consider the fact that in Europe, studying a foreign language is a nearly ubiquitous experience. This is because most European countries, unlike the United States, have national-level mandates that require foreign language instruction. Other countries have recognized the plethora of benefits that go along with being bilingual, such as thinking more creatively, having access to a wider variety of jobs, and more fully enjoying and participating in other cultures or conversations with people from diverse backgrounds. America should be working towards improving their language programs to increase these benefits for their citizens and the country. One challenge with the United States schooling system is it has such a wide variety of school types, all moving at different speeds, covering different content, and teaching different ways. For example, in some rural school environments, legislation allows kids to replace their foreign language courses with other arts courses, never specifically requiring a foreign language class. In most public schooling systems, foreign language instruction is started in high school, and 2 to 3 years are required. On the other hand, many private schools start instruction in elementary school, and dual language schools provide instruction throughout the day in 2 different languages. Having such a wide variety of schooling programs makes it hard to know what is taught and at what time regarding foreign languages. But the fact of the matter is, disregarding the current system, the best way to learn foreign languages is to have exposure to it in school at an early age. Sadly, only 58% of middle schools and 25% of elementary schools offered a foreign language in 2008, according to a report by the Commission on Language Learning. This contradicts a major fact that experts agree on. The active period for learning foreign languages is from birth through 10 years of age, during the critical or sensitive period. This is when the brain is still in the developmental process and information can be absorbed with little resistance. As humans age, their neural pathways become more permanent and new information, although not impossible, becomes much more difficult to learn without excessive repetition. That means that the best time to learn a foreign language is through the end of elementary school, the time period that most schools are not teaching a foreign language. Furthermore, teaching foreign languages at an older age when children's brains are less receptive to new information makes it harder to learn the content. The palate at the top of the mouth is formed at around age 9 to 11, which means that a child learning a foreign language after this point will have a slim chance of having a native accent. Also, starting instruction late can make it hard to gain interest among students. To put the current foreign language program into perspective, starting basic foreign language instruction in 9th grade would be like waiting to start basic math and reading skills until 9th grade. The brain is more apt to learn these basic skills as it is forming and growing in a developing child, and children are more likely to be receptive to learning these basics. Learning how to read and do math after having the ability to do more intriguing and complicated skills would likely create feelings of frustration towards the subject matter. This is how the foreign language system is currently set up in most schools in the United States, and it does not create a conducive learning environment for the purpose of retaining students and increasing bilingualism. Not only are language programs in the United States not structured in a way that is conducive to language learning, but they are also steadily dwindling and are not fully supported in local districts. In an article from CNN written by Ruth Ben-Ghiat, it is stated that, quote, 651 foreign language offerings had been terminated between 2013 and 2016. When schools have to make budget cuts, which is a normal process in the United States, arts programs and foreign language programs are the first to go. That is because they are not considered part of the core four: math, science, English, and history, end quote. The government sees it as a financial detriment to keep including language courses in schools and expand the foreign language programs that already exist when the rest of the world is already learning English. Although there is truth in this statement in the sense that more money would be spent on language programs, this wouldn't be a detriment, but on the contrary, a huge boost into the future economy and life of the United States. It would create a whole new era of Americans that can communicate with the world and create stronger political ties, tighter community bonds, and more economic gain. It is imperative that American citizens reverse this trend of cutting foreign language programs for America's long-term health. Now, some people may be asking, why should I want to become bilingual? Well, being bilingual provides many personal, community, and economic benefits. Being bilingual expands the mind to think in different ways. If two languages are presented at an early age, the brain changes the way it processes and reacts to information. In a study on culture mapping published at Tufts University, it was found that, quote, native English speakers showed more activation in the left paracevian cortices associated with language processing, whereas native Chinese speakers showed more activation in a visual premotor association area, which is associated with visual spatial processing, end quote. This basically showed that Westerners tend to focus on objects when using their language, whereas East Asians tend to focus on contextual and background information. Chinese and English are not only very different visually and auditorily, but they activate very different parts of the brain, which can increase activity and build more neural pathways in the brain. A person who can speak both English and Chinese benefits from the ability to focus on individual objects as well as contextual information. Furthermore, the theory of mind, or TOM, is defined as the ability to attribute mental states to oneself and others, and to understand that others have beliefs, desires, and wants that are different than one's own. TOM develops in bilingual children at an earlier age than in monolingual children. An example by Dana Bird, a psychotherapist, of TOM in action is imagine a child without TOM. They might stand directly in front of the TV and think that since they can see the TV, everyone else can see it as well. A child with a more developed TOM would recognize that their point of view of the world is different from other people's. This advanced sense of others in relation to oneself allows bilingual children to form new pathways in their brain at a younger age and create more connections with others. Furthermore, bilinguals have distinct patterns of neural activation because their brain develops with different neural pathways and consistent use of underused parts of the brain, such as activation of the left inferior frontal cortex. This leads to an increased amount of gray matter, or section of the brain responsible for sensory perception, memory, emotions, decision-making, self-control, and it is generally associated with intelligence and cognitive ability. An increase in this matter helps with overall cognition and advanced development of the brain, which increases cognition. Bilingualism not only provides individual gain for students' brains, but also helps to form well-bonded communities through the growth of empathy and respect for others' cultures and lifestyles. The overall conclusion of a lab published in the journal Psychological Science discussed that multilingual exposure creates advanced interpersonal skills in understanding and test subjects. Learning a second language provides a new method of communication and context for a completely new culture, which helps individuals understand each other better and connect. As stated by Catherine Kinsler, a professor of psychology at the University of Chicago, quote, children in the multilingual environments have social experiences that provide routine practice in considering the perspective of others. They have to think about who speaks which language to who understands which content, and the times and places in which different languages are spoken, end quote. Multilingual environments expose people to others that have different views from their own, which helps to desensitize people from the fear of the unknown. This practice in understanding and empathizing with others breaks down preconceptions and misunderstandings, which creates a stronger foundation for a community of people to work together. If neither individual brain health benefits nor better community building blocks provides a good enough reason to learn a foreign language, they consider that the economic gain of the United States could be enormous if the population of bilingual speakers is increased. Constructing a more bilingual society helps to build deeper connections with other countries by showing willingness to put in an effort to learn their language. In a paper titled The Economic Benefit of Bilingualism, published at Florida International University, it states, quote, When it comes to competing effectively in interdependent international world markets, Americans are virtually the mutes of the international business world if their clients cannot speak English. In contrast, the Japanese, one of America's greatest competitors, aggressively teach their youth a second language. End quote. The United States and Japan have two of the largest economies in the world, except the Japanese have acknowledged the importance of understanding other languages and cultures in business, whereas Americans have not. There are many convoluted and complex factors when comparing the economies between Japan and the United States, but two things are clear. Economically, Japan is the world's largest surplus and creditor country. On the other hand, the United States is currently the world's largest deficit and debtor country. It is unclear if there's a direct correlation between Japan's economic success and their stress on foreign languages, but one of the major differences in our education systems is the Japanese focus on the foreign language system, which makes it logical to conclude that a large part of Japan's economic success is due to foreign languages. The United States should acknowledge the success of the Japanese model of stressing foreign language programs on economics and implement a similar stress on language learning. Furthermore, there's a great example of economic gain from foreign languages within the United States. In southern Florida, quote, 25% of the jobs require a dual language skill, and an estimated 70% of the new economic growth of the country is associated with trade with Latin America, which must be conducted in the Spanish language. End quote. Dual language skills helped build up the economy of Dale County, Florida, and it is projected that 70% of the coming economic growth will rely on bilingualism. The economy of one small town in Florida is now booming due to the large presence of people that are bilingual in the business world. And this model could be implemented in many more cities to create an independent and competent America in international business. Learning foreign languages is still important even for United States citizens who are never considering leaving the country and don't find the benefits above reason enough. The domestic job market is becoming more and more competitive, and it is necessary for students to have the skill of bilingualism to help secure a job. Quote, over the past 5 years, demand for bilingual workers in the United States more than doubled. In 2010, there were roughly 240,000 job postings aimed at bilingual workers. By 2015, that figure had ballooned to approximately 630,000. End quote. The demand for a bilingual workforce is still on the rise as the world becomes more connected and international policies and business becomes a larger part of life. Furthermore, there's a large population of people that migrate into the United States each year that speak languages other than English, and learning foreign languages as citizens will help with communicating with immigrants. There's a clear disconnect between the obvious need for professionals that are bilingual and the curriculum in the United States schools. To combat this oversight regarding foreign languages, the United States needs to formulate a new curriculum. An ideal model for foreign language instruction would be a dual language program, which is constructed so that history and English are taught in English, and science and math are taught in the selected target language. This program partially immerses students, allowing them to become familiar with everyday phrases and vocabulary in their target language. This model is most likely not a reality for many schools in the United States, but there are many smaller steps that can be put into place to improve the foreign language system. First off, the implementation of foreign language programs at an earlier time in the schooling system would increase the number of students that would continue learning a language throughout high school and who remember it for their life. Secondly, the United States needs to target the education of foreign language teachers because their skill and passion is directly reflected in students. Third, there needs to be an increase in the number of resources allocated to foreign language programs in schools. All of these small, attainable steps and revisions will create a population of youth that are better prepared to conduct business, create relationships, and interact in the global world. Today, the United States does not think that language learning is a big priority. English is the international language of business, and a large portion of the population worldwide speaks English, which makes it all too easy to become complacent with not learning multiple languages. But with the unforeseen changes of the future world, Spanish or Mandarin or some other widely spoken language could grow in popularity and surpass the use of English. These small steps for schools to implement more languages may not be enough to keep us on par with the rest of the world. Americans need to be ready to adapt and improve our communication skills. Becoming a more multilingual country won't happen overnight, and we need to take these small steps now and be prepared to take more dramatic steps later to prepare our country for the world of tomorrow. Thank you.